Good Sunday morning, everybody. The initiative process here in California, known all across the country. For example, you mentioned Prop 13. Most elected officials in the United States will immediately recognize that as the Howard Jarvis initiative, the one that helped bring property tax control, property taxes under control. Also, you mentioned Prop 103. All across this country, people will think, insurance reform in California, auto insurance reform in California. Don't know what the number is, or will be, but there's another initiative that we're going to be talking about today. And somehow the word initiative and Jamie Court are synonymous. How's that for an introduction?
That's a great introduction.
Jamie Court is the president of Consumer Watchdog, which is the organization that way back when was the beginning of Prop 103.
Right, yeah, our founder Harvey Rosenfield was the author of Insurance Reform Prop 103, and we've been defending it for 24 years now, and great savings in the auto and home insurance market due to that.
And we're here to talk about other things, but 103 still has not been fully implemented, is that right?
It actually has. A few years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, we got zip code based auto insurance to be done with. That was the last piece. That took almost 20 years. We have had rate regulation from day one, and that's produced about $62 billion in savings, according to the Consumer Federation of America. Our rates have been relatively flat over 20 years, which is unheard of. Around the rest of the nation, they've gone up more than 50%.
And I have to ask a question that will set the scene for what we're going to talk about, and that is that the companies here in California that provide auto insurance, ain't none of them gone out of business.
It's the 4th most competitive auto insurance market in America. They're still probably making too much, but you know what? Rates have been steady. It's a competitive market, and when they make money, they're making money the right way, which is competing. They're not doing it by letting fraud go. They're not doing it by price gouging. They're doing it by competing against each other. So we've had, with really steady competition, low prices, it's an undeniable success.
Now, all of those things that you just mentioned, would they apply to the initiative that you're working on now, which will deal with health insurance?
Absolutely. Right now, our auto insurance, our home insurance, many lines of business insurance are regulated. The insurance companies have to ask permission from a regulated, from the insurance commissioner, and he is elected, and they have to prove that their rates are justified, and they have to prove they're not making too much money, and they get permission if they can prove that. Health insurance companies can raise their rates at will. And that's why we have seen in California rates go up over the last 10 years by 153%.
Oh,
that's 5 times the rate of inflation. And if you look at competition in the health insurance market, we see 4 companies in California controlling 71% of the market. And we see, just more than anecdotally, premiums going up all the time. March 1st, for instance, 250,000 Blue Shield customers are going to face rate hikes of about 15%.
I thought Blue Shield was a not-for-profit company.
It is a not-for-profit company. It doesn't prevent them from paying their CEO $4 million a year or keeping $3.2 billion, with a B, billion dollars more in reserve than the state requires. That's 1,400% more than the state of California says you need in reserve. They keep in their reserve, and that's how they put their money away when they raise their rates.
But just for the record, it's nowhere near as much as Apple has got stuck away.
That's certainly true. On the other hand, you don't need an Apple, despite the fact we all love using them, you know, to protect yourself against a catastrophe. And we see just increasingly people can't afford their health insurance.
So the other 3 insurance companies are?
Kaiser, Anthem, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, and Health Net are the 4 insurance companies that control 71% of the market in California.
So I can imagine that there are a lot of people, and if I didn't think about it too much, I would be one of them, who would say, well, the companies are entitled to make as much money as they can.
Well, we all are going to have to buy health insurance in 2014 under federal health reform. And there is no regulation in California on how much the health insurance companies can charge. This is similar to what happened in 1988, if you recall, when Insurance Reform Prop 103 passed, because there was a mandate to buy auto insurance in 1986. People, particularly in the inner city and South Central, couldn't afford auto insurance. The rates were like $6,000, $7,000 because they were charging by zip code, because they were charging based on the fact that people didn't have insurance previously. Prop 103 nullified both of those insurance industry practices, created a level playing field, created rate regulation. And so we are trying with the health insurance mandate to say, health insurance companies will have to justify their rates publicly, just like auto insurers. If someone challenges a rate hike and there's a good reason to challenge it, there are hearings. The insurance commissioner presides, and the insurance commissioner has the power to say no to a rate hike that is excessive.
You know, I had completely forgotten about that, but you're absolutely right, as you always are, that, that there was that talk about insurance, auto insurance is going to be mandatory, and so
it became mandatory.
It became mandatory, and we have the same thing now with the national health care.
That's right, and there was a very seminal legal case back then called King v. Meese in '86, decided in '87, in which the Supreme Court said, you're right, it's wrong that the government's going to force you to buy auto insurance, but the government's not going to make sure it's affordable, but the legislature has to deal with it. We can't deal with it with the Supreme Court. So the legislature never dealt with it. We tried an insurance reform bill back then. The people dealt with it, and they did it in a very interesting way. Prop 103 was put on the ballot almost exclusively by volunteer-gathered signatures in the mail. There was a huge rollout mailing, and people got the petition in the mail, much like this that we're doing for the health insurance initiative, and they opened it, the petition was there, they signed it, they returned it, and almost all the signatures, all but maybe 100,000 of the 700,000 signatures turned in back then, were done that way. Unheard of today. Today you have paid signature gatherers, you don't have that effort. And you have industries that are able to pay for the signature gatherers who raise $2 million, $2.5 million. They control the ballot initiative process. We are trying to go back to the days of Prop 103, put the people in charge, let the people put these initiatives on the ballot themselves. We can talk more about it. There's some impediments to this being done on a widespread basis, despite the fact that the internet makes it really easy for us to read initiatives, and if we could use electronic signature gathering, which the legislature has banned, more populist initiatives would come before the public. But since we can't do that, we have to be creative in how we use the internet to collect signatures.
Just to clarify a couple of things. First of all, the fact that people have to be paid to gather these signatures, that would restrict, it would kill off some of these efforts to gather signatures. Yeah,
absolutely. If you don't have $2 million, how can you get on the ballot?
Exactly.
You know, if you have a very big mail list, maybe, but even then, today we need 505,000 valid signatures by May 1st to put this health insurance rate regulation initiative. We're using the mail, just like Prop 103 did. People are actually getting these mailers now. We're using the internet at JustifyRates.org. People can actually download the petition because it's one page. We kept it one page just so we could let it be printed out. People could read it and sign it at home, not be rushed in a shopping center to read it, you know, in a half second, not know what they're signing. But we have to reach people and let them know that. They have to put a stamp on the envelope and return it to us. It's not easy. It's a very unusual effort. We're trying to do it the right way. The public, in the week and a half we've been out there, have been responding pretty well. But we have to reach voters and let them know. Let's
show you the page that's back over here. This is actually the page. It's www.justifyrates.org. And if we scroll this down, and we've got the finger gesture here that we can do, and you can see right in this area here is the petition, which you would print out, sign, and then mail. Or you can request petitions, which people are doing and circulate themselves. Yeah. And then, of course, the question becomes, and you touched on it already, we can do all of this electronically except sign the petition. Right. We have to print this petition out. We actually have to not only sign it, we have to sign it in two places. You have to sign it as the person who is the signatory, as the registered voter, and you have to sign it as a circulator. But imagine going to your bank account, and in order to make a withdrawal online, you'd have to print out a deposit slip and sign it in 5 places. You wouldn't have to do that for your bank account. Why can't we as a state create a simple way for all of us to have a verified electronic signature, protect against fraud, where we can read ballot measures and affix our electronic signature on our iPad right to that petition? Somebody has thought of that already, I'm sure. The technology exists, but the legislature has vetoed bills to allow electronic signature gathering, and as a result, secretaries of states will not let the counties accept electronic signatures. It has to be a wet signature. In other words, signed in the presence of the circulator. Officially. So this is our best effort. I've never really seen anybody do this where you have a one-page simple petition, print it out, mail it back. It's a very big experiment.